What's up everybody, ChaoticMeatball here and welcome back to another Pokemon Challenge video. First and foremost, I hope you guys checked out the Pokemon pack opening from a few days ago. I'm trying to expand the weekly videos and it would really help out if you gave me some feedback. Anyway, let's get right into the challenge. Black and White are decently hard games when it comes to the Professor Oak's challenge, but far from the hardest. Here's the rules. First up, you must capture and evolve every Pokemon before every single gym badge, meaning we've got to get a fully evolved starter before the first gym, and among others. Rule number 2 is that we're not allowed to trade with other versions of the game, and that use of only one game is allowed. This eliminates anything to do with the Entralink, the Black City, or the White Forest, and anything else that has to do with trade evolution, stuff like that. Since I'll be using Black version, I won't be having to worry about White Forest, but those playing White should remember this rule. Lastly, no glitches for extra Pokemon. Glitches and exploits used for time save are allowed though. So with that, let's get on with the challenge. I start by naming myself Chaotic, and since I can't name my rivals, I can't make fun of anyone this time. Anyway, I chose Oshawott to start off since having a water type this early on makes it nice for HMs later on, despite the fact that we probably won't use it. I just wanted an excuse to pick him. I love Oshawott. After taking out our rivals, we're able to grab the Pokédex and move on to Route 1. I don't catch anything here since I can catch everything at a higher level on Route 2, where I also get the running shoes. I made sure to get some very specific Pokemon here, those being a single Vital Spirit Lillipup, 5 Pickup Lillipups, a Patrat, and a Purloin. Believe it or not, these are the only captures for this section, the only thing left being a gift Pokemon over in the Dream Yard that we'll get later. You might be questioning, why 6 Lillipups? Well, Vital Spirit has an out-of-battle ability that allows me to encounter the highest level Pokemon on the route much more often than lower levels. Since Generation 5 has an EXP curve system that you gain less and less EXP the more of a gap you have in terms of levels, this will be extremely useful for hurrying along through the entire game. The other 5 Lillipups will be used throughout the entire game to pick up rare candy starting at level 21. Now you may be also thinking, well, won't it be really slow to get all 5 of them to level 21 before training anything else? And you would be extremely correct, it would take over a dozen hours to do so. But I've got a better way to do it. You see, the gym leader has 2 Pokemon. Do you remember my strategy that I used in the Red and Blue Oak challenge and how I kept challenging Brock over and over again to evolve Pidgeotto? Well, we're going to be using that strategy on all 5 pickup Pokemon. After about 6 hours of doing so, I've gotten all 5 Lillipups to level 21, however, we're not done yet. We still need to get one of the Lillipups to level 31 so that we could pick up 2 Sunstones for later sections. This is the most convenient time to do so, so I train up one of them to level 31 before switching out one of my pickup Lillipups for Oshawott. I trained it up to level 20 in a few hours, evolving into Dewott in the process, before switching it out for Purloin. I decided that it would be wise to wait for some more rare candies before going further with Oshawott. I got Purloin up to level 12 before allowing it to fight Silent over and over again until level 19, where I got up right to the cusp of level 20, finally evolving it into Liepard in the grass after 2 hours. I did the same process for Patrat, who took the same amount of time before evolving. In the training, I managed to get both Sunstones, so I just used 2 rare candies that I picked up, evolving Lillipup into Herdier and into Stoutland. This left just Dewott, which after getting it to level 25, allowed me to just use rare candies since I was getting about 1 to 2 an hour of just wild grinding, evolving into Samurott at level 36. Lastly, I grabbed the free Pansear from the person in the Dream Yard, and with a time of 14 hours and 36 minutes, and a total of 11 Pokemon, I'm able to fight Silent and actually beat him after being punked out by his Pansage over and over again, claiming the Trio Badge and allowing me to progress. Team Plasma is a pain again, like they were in the Dynamo challenge, but mostly in the time-wasting department, leaving me to capture a Munna, and new to Pokemon Black and White, Rustling Grass, which is where I'll be able to capture Audino and Musharna from the Dream Yard. This stuff appears decently often, so it's both a much easier way to get Munna's evolution without searching later on for a Moonstone, and for EXP, since Audino is basically our key to this challenge now. After a few more scuffles on Route 3, I managed to capture a Pidove and Blitzel before moving into the Wellspring Cave for another Team Plasma encounter. But more importantly, so that we can catch Drillbur from a Dust Cloud, and Ragarola and Woobat from regular encounters. I also remained in the cave so that I'd be able to get evolutionary stones for later sections, since I'll need a few Dusk Stones, Thunder Stones, and 2 out of the 3 remaining stones from Gen 1, seeing as we can get one of our choosing in Castelia City later on. I got the Fire and Leaf Stones, and during the search, I managed to level up enough on Drillburs to evolve Piddup into Tranquil at level 21. I arrived in Nakreen City and switched out my Vital Spirit Lillipup for my Woobat, since it evolves through friendship, and I'd rather not have to waste time running around with it later on in exchange for the loss of 1 or 2 rare candies. The outside of the Pinwheel Forest is the last area that I can access for the time being, leaving my last encounters to be Throw from the Rustling Grass, Timber, Sock, and Timpole. If you were playing White version, Sock would be in the Rustling Grass and Throw would be in the regular grass. And with that, it's time for grinding. Luckily, the outside of the Pinwheel Forest is our best location for doing so, and there's a nurse here who will heal our Pokemon just by talking to her rather than going all the way back to the Pokemon Center, which is extremely convenient. I started with Timber, since he's a fighting type, and he pretty much got the job done against Audino's really quickly, despite them being damage sponges. After about 13 minutes, Timber evolved into Girder at level 25, and no Conkeldurr because of the no trading rule. Yeah, 13 minutes. That's how powerful Audino can be when you're getting frequent enough rustling grass. Patches seem to appear every 15 to so seconds of running around for me, so it may be slightly faster or slower to you. Next up is Roggenrola, and after about 17 minutes, it evolved into Boldore. No Gigalith because no trading. The next one to train is Blitzel, and unfortunately it kinda sucks to train since it has extremely weak attacks. No same type attack bonus on Tackle and Quick Attack makes it hard to take down a damage sponge like Audino. Shockwave is okay, but Flame Charge and Pursuit aren't, and leaving it just with Spark at level 25. By that point, it's not even a threat anymore, and everything just goes down quite quickly, but it's still a bit frustrating. Did I mention that the nurse is your best friend? Blitzel evolved into Zebstrika at level 27 and a little over 30 minutes. Drillbur, on the other hand, isn't too bad to train up, since Metal Claw and Dig are good at taking down Audino. Drillbur evolved into Excadrill at level 31 in about 50 minutes. Next one to grind is Timpole, who wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. His attacks did enough, and I KO'd Audino's pretty easily, so after 45 minutes, I evolved Timpole into Palpitoad at level 25, and into Seismitoad at level 36. I used a few rare candies starting at level 30 so that it would go a little faster. Lastly, I brought back out Tranquil so that I'd be able to evolve it. However, I checked if Woobat would evolve during said training, and it did, evolving into Swoobat at level 11 through High Friendship. A few minutes later, Tranquil evolved into Unfezant at level 32, and the last evolution to take care of is Pansear, which evolved into Simisear with a Firestone. And with a time of 19 hours and 13 minutes, we're able to take on Lenora and grab the basic badge. After sweeping through, I threw down with Team Plasma inside of the Pinwheel Forest, where there's a multitude of encounters to capture, those being Sewaddle, 2 Cottonies, one of which evolving into Whimsicott with a Sunstone, the other being traded for a Petalil in Nakreen City, which immediately evolves into Lilligant with a Sunstone. Of course, this trade is the opposite in White version, as you can encounter Petalil and trade for Cottony. The last few encounters are Venipede, Pansage in the Rustling Grass, Venipede evolving to Whirlipede while searching, and Panpour in the Rustling Grass. We cross Sky Arrow Bridge and into Castelia City, and I'd like to bring something up about these games that make them easier than people give it credit for. Despite the fact that Black and White are part of Generation 5 and have the scaling experience, it's not as hard to complete this challenge in this game compared to stuff like Black 2 and White 2 and the scaled Generation 7 games, and that's because you have zero access to Pokemon outside of the Univision until the post-game. This essentially turns the game into a much more polished Pokemon Red and Blue, meaning that it takes a pretty short amount of time relative to the amount of Pokemon. I figured I'd just point that out. After arriving in Castelia City, I grabbed the Water Stone from the guy in the first pier, allowing me to go to the Pokemon Center and evolve Pansage into Simisage with a Leaf Stone, and Panpour into Simipour with a Water Stone. The last area we can do any encounters in is Route 4, which we only have access to the first patch of sand, allowing us to get Sandile, Darumaka, Whirlipede into Scolipede during an intermission for trainers, and Scraggy. Now it's time for grinding. The best place to grind for Audino's is in the Pinwheel Forest, however you're sacrificing a 30% extra frequency for Audino in exchange for it being 2 levels higher than when you're running the Vital Spirit Lillipup. unfortunately, since Sawaddle's final evolution requires friendship, I'm not doing so I'm only getting Audino's at a 65% rate. Fortunately though, Whimsicott Black version and the Lilligant White version at 5% isn't a bad source of EXP either, though it can make a pretty quick work of my Sandile, so I make sure that I wouldn't train it against it. So in an effort to keep this video short, I'm going to tell you the total time and what evolutions there are. Those being Sawaddle into Swadloon at level 20, and into Elite Vanny through Max Happiness, Darumaka into Darmanitan at level 35, which I made sure to run through the Battle Company, Plasma Encounter, and the Gym Trainers since I may as well not waste the money and experience, Sandile into Krokorok at level 29, and into Crocodile at level 40, using a rare candies to finish that off, and Scraggy into Scrafty at level 37. And with a time of 25 hours and 5 minutes, I'm able to take on Berg and claim the Insect Badge, allowing me to move on and grab more Pokemon. After mopping the floor with Bianca and Sharon, I'm able to run over to the Desert Resort and into the Relic Castle to capture a Yamask, as well as getting the cover fossil from this nice person. The last 3 Pokemon in the Desert Resort that I need to capture are Dwebble, Sigilyph, and Maractus. I've got to admit, Maractus is one of my favorite Pokemon, and I hope it gets a V card in the Sword and Shield series of cards. Wow, I just realized how poor of a choice of words that calling them V cards was. Nice. Before going into Nimbasa City, I traveled back down to Decrene City so that I could revive the cover fossil into Tortuga. Of course, we've got to throw down with Team Plasma again, but the reward is the bicycle, which will make getting Wrestling Grass even faster than it was before, at least by a few seconds for each one. The last few catches of this section are over on Route 16, where we can get Trubbish, Mincino, Gothita in Black or Solosis in White, Cincino in the Rustling Grass, eliminating the need for a Shiny Stone, and Emolga also from the Rustling Grass. That finishes up the encounters for the section, so I finished off the last few story events and trainers before I was stuck with grinding Audino's. I took down a few Audino's to get the last level on Yamask, evolving into Cofagrigus at level 34. Next up is Trubbish, and after about 35 minutes, it evolved into Garbodor at level 36. Next up is Tortuga, and since he's pretty weak, it took about 35 minutes to get from level 29 to level 37, evolving into Caracosta. Next up was Gothita, and it really stood up for itself pretty easily thanks to both Psybeam and Psychic later on. It evolved into Gothorita at level 32, and lastly, Dwebble evolved into Crustle at level 34, which didn't take too long since it was pretty low level evolution for this part of the game. I used a few rare candies right in front of Elisa to evolve Gothorita into Gothitelle at level 41, and with a time of 29 hours and 27 minutes, I took on Elisa and claimed the Bolt Badge. After blasting Sharon, I went straight to the Driftvale Bridge, capturing a Ducklet before arriving in Driftvale City, which we've got another in-game trade with. I grabbed my Minccino, trading it for a Basculin before even more Team Plasma battles. First of all though, I went through all of the trainers in the exterior of the cold storage, grabbing a Vanillite before running through them. With that, I'm free to go to Route 6, being the last area that I can access before fighting the gym. This is where I'm able to capture Deerling, Foongust, and Carablast. This game is relatively linear, so it makes these sections a lot shorter than you'd think. However, now we're getting to the biggest problem with Generation 5's Professor Oak challenge. Extremely high-level evolutions! You see, Vanillite evolves into Vanillish at level 35. Okay, that's no problem. But then it evolves into Vanillix at level 47. Which is a very high level for a section where our highest level Audino is level 25. Oh shoot, look at that, Ducklet evolved into Swan at level 35 while I was talking. Oh well. Next up is Deerling, who's actually pretty easy to evolve since it gets Double Kick, and takes down Audino pretty quickly, evolving into Sawsbuck at level 34, and allowing me to move on to Foongus. Foongus is a notable Pokemon for not being able to attack very much at all, mostly using status moves as it does in competitive as an Amoonguss. However, Audino has refreshed, so I can't even poison it reliably. So I decided I'd use it anyway and continue to use potions in battles so that I could evolve it. After an hour, Foongus evolved into Moongus at level 39. Boy, that was a freaking pain. Somehow, Vanillite didn't take much longer than Foongus though, mostly because it could actually attack. In about an hour and 10 minutes, it evolved into Vanillish at level 35, and Vanillux at level 47. And with a total of 81 Pokemon, this is the maximum amount that you can have before fighting Clay. With a time of 33 hours and 13 minutes, I threw down with Clay, taking his Quake badge in the process. Bianca decided to be nice this time and gave me the HM for Fly after the gym battle, but there's no need for it just yet. Sharon, though, decided not to be so nice, fighting me before I could grab another Pokemon that needed the EXP. So after taking him out, I entered the Chargestone Cave, allowing me to capture Joltik, Ferroseed, Clink, and Tynamo. And clearing out the trainers throughout the entire cave allowed me to evolve Joltik into Galvantula at level 36 on the very last one. I made sure to give it the lucky egg as soon as I received it from Professor Juniper, and this will make training much faster throughout the rest of the run. I decided to move on to training my good friend Tynamo from the last challenge, taking out Route 7 and the Celestial Tower, evolving an Electric at level 39 and an Electros with a Thunderstone. Before leaving, I made sure to capture Litwick and Elgem, ringing the bell and allowing me to enter Skyla's gym. I opted to wait to do that for a little later, training Litwick on Audino. Luckily, Audino can't touch it since it's a ghost type, leaving me to obliterate them with fire-type attacks, evolving into Lampent at level 41, and into Chandelure with a Duskstone. Elgem is up next and is extremely capable as a fighter surprisingly, dealing massive damage and not taking long at all to evolve into Behem at level 42. Next up is Ferroseed, who isn't reliable as an attacker like Fungus, but since Audino's main source of attacking is Double Slap, Iron Barbs activates a ton and allows me to pick up KOs rather quickly despite being a rather weak Pokemon in terms of attack prowess. It evolved into Ferrothorn at level 40. Last thing before we have to change the clock, Clink is a monster. It evolves into its final form at a whopping level 49. 2 more levels than the Vanillux of the last section, but it's not as competent of a fighter, though it's able to tank hits. It does take a little longer to grind it up, but after about an hour and 20 minutes, I get it to Clang at level 38, and into Kling at level 49 after a few rare candies. I admit the rare candies haven't been coming into play as much that I would have thought. Anyway, I changed the month over to April on the DS clock since I needed it to be winter, so that I could get myself a Cubchoo. There's a few season differences in terms of encounters, but nothing crazy to make it much of a hamper on the challenge itself. I grabbed Cubchoo and grinded up to level 35 on Audino before using the trainers inside of the Mistralton gym. After evolving Cubchoo into Beartic at level 37, I saved in front of Skyla with a time of 38 hours and 27 minutes, allowing me to pick up the Jet Badge. Before moving on to Twist Mountain, I grabbed the HM for Surf from Alder, allowing me to go back to Route 1 and surf over to Route 17 and 18, where I was able to capture Frillish, and from the Rippling Water, Alomomola, and Jellicent, therefore allowing me to bypass getting Frillish to level 40, which is nothing compared to the next Pokemon. There's a special egg here, and when it's hatched, I get a Larvesta. If you thought Vanillux and Kling were bad, then you're going to be mortified with Larvesta, since it evolves at an astounding level 59. I got it up to level 37 before going to Twist Mountain, and since it's a pretty weak attacker at this level, I needed to make sure that I kept my pickup mons in the party, especially now. Before Twist Mountain though, we've got a few more optional areas, or in this case, required areas because we need to catch their Pokemon. I went back to Route 6 and entered Mistralton Cave, grabbing an Axew before facing off against Cobalion. It's not a pain, but I almost KO'd it before capture due to the burn, but I saved in front of it so it wasn't that big of a deal. Afterwards, I flew back into Crane City and into the Pinwheel Forest where the second Sword of Justice awaits. I managed to get Virizion and 1 Ultra Ball after getting it super close yet again to burn. I think Larvesta is trying to get me to have a heart attack at these near mess-ups. And with that, I ran through Twist Mountain, catching Cryogonal before leaving. This is a 1% encounter during any season that's not winter, where it's 5%, so I'd highly suggest changing the month to April for winter, but I was too lazy and just went for it, getting it in about 10 encounters, which is pretty lucky. I ran through all of the trainers and arrived in Osiris City, home of the 7th gym leader Bryson. However, there's a few more encounters in the section, so I made sure to grab Shelmet from the puddle and Stunfisk from surfing in the city, before going slightly north to grab Mienfoo and Druddigon from the grass of the Dragon Spiral Tower exterior. Now it's grind time, and grind we shall! I made level 50 my barrier for this section since everything but Larvesta evolves at level 50 or below, so after getting Larvesta to 50, I have switched out for Mienfoo, which was quite easy to train due to being super effective against Audino, having Force Palm, Drain Punch, and Jump Kick to take care of them. It evolved into Mienshao at level 50 after about an hour, leaving me with Axew next. Normally you'd think that the pseudo-legendary would be the highest evolution of the section, but it just so happens to be the lowest, which quite frankly is insane. I managed to get decently bad luck with the Rustling Grass encounter starting off, continuously getting Emolga before finally getting into the groove with Dragon Claw, Slash, and eventually Dragon Pulse, evolving into Fracture at level 38, and into Haxorus at level 48. That leaves just Larvesta, which I dragged through all of the gym trainers, getting me an extra level and allowing me to use every last rare candy I had to get it to level 59, evolving into Volcarona. And with a time of 43 hours and 53 minutes, I swept through Bryson and got the Icicle badge, leaving me ready for some more catching. Oh boy! However, that isn't until we take out Team Plasma again. I take the Mountain Dragon Spiral Tower, grabbing a Golett on my way up. I trained it on trainers of the section, eventually getting to Route 9, where I'm able to capture Pawniard. After wiping the floor with everyone there, and made my way into Opalucid City. The plot is attempting to kidnap us again, but we're allowed to head up to Route 10 to capture a Vullaby and Bouffalant. You get Rufflet in white version, but boy, they're high-level evolutions at level 54. Not as bad as Larvesta, but it's still pretty brutal that they keep throwing us these darn high-level Pokemon, especially when you add on the level 52 evolution for Pawniard. Luckily, it doesn't take too long since Audino can get up to level 36 on Route 10, leaving me to grind everything up, evolving Golett into Golurk at level 43, Pawniard into Bisharp at level 52, and Vullaby into Mandibuzz at level 54. And with a time of 47 hours and 9 minutes, I'm able to take out Drayden and retrieve the Legend badge. You'd fight Iris in white version, but fortunately it's not a different team and you should be able to sweep them with your army of strong Pokemon at this point anyway. The last section before the post-game really isn't all that bad, since nothing here needs to grind except for one large, terrifying Pokemon. However, now that we've got the Master Ball from Professor Juniper, it's time to grab the one roaming legendary of the game. You can get Tornadus in black version or Thundurus in white version after activating an event. And it's not actually hard to find since you can pinpoint it where it is thanks to the electronic bulletin board, allowing me to capture it in a single quick ball on Route 16. I was tempted to use my Master Ball, but I decided, hey, legendaries aren't that hard to capture in Generation 5, and I didn't want to have to deal with capturing a level 75 later on. In the Victory Road, you're able to capture Durant, Heatmore, and Dano. Yeah, we need to evolve that thing. After taking out the trainers, I managed to capture Terrakion, also in the Victory Road, in a quick ball. I'm getting decently lucky with these, so I'll take it. Now it's time for the grinding. The best place to do so is right in the badge gates, or just on Route 10 itself, since both areas have Audino at the max of level 36. Dano, however, is pretty weak and doesn't evolve for the first time until level 50. However, the attacks it gets are just fine, it's just not too much of a problem. I just have to wail on the Audinos here. The nicest part about it is that they're high enough level to have Heal Pulse now, so it gets decently hard to straight up just get KO'd because of their shenanigans. After nearly 2 hours of grinding, 4 rare candies I got while grinding, Dano evolved into Zweilous at level 50, and a Hydreigon at level 64. And with a time of 49 hours and 1 minute, it's time for the Elite Four. I ran through them with Hydreigon and Mandibuzz, getting to the final few battles and grabbing Reshiram with a quick ball. And in Getsus go down to Hydreigon, and after the credits, it's time to take on the massive post-game. However, if you're curious of what Pokemon we missed in the Unova region, there's 6 starters in their evolutions, 4 trade evolutions, 7 version exclusives, 2 legendaries, one of which is an obtainable Pokemon in the post-game, so don't worry about that one, the mythicals, the other fossil Pokemon choice, in this case Archon and Archeops, and Zorua and Zoroark, which for some reason they're blocked behind an event in this game. Weird. After reloading our save, we're able to get the Super Rod from Looker and the National Dex from Cedric Juniper, and my first point of interest is back in Twist Mountain, where I'm able to get a ton of fossils. After a few clock trainers and soft resets, I'm able to go back to Green City and grab up Kabuto, Ammonite, Aerodactyl, Anorith, Lileep, Shieldon, and Cranidos. From here, I wanted to take out all the revisits for fishing encounters. So in order, I got Feebas from regular fishing and Milotic from rippling fishing on Route 1, Seadra from rippling, Finneon and Horsey from regular, and Quillfish, Luminion, and Kingdra from rippling on Route 17, where I managed to evolve Cranidos into Rampardos and Shieldon into Bastiodon, both at level 30 since the search took a little while, Seeking from rippling, and Goldeen from regular on Route 3, Krabby and Clamperl from regular, and Relicanth, Lovedisc, Kingler, and Huntail from rippling on Route 4. You'd get Gorobus in a white version instead of Huntail. Chinchou from regular in Driftvale City, Poliwhirl and Politoed from rippling, and Poliwag from regular on Route 6, Barboach from regular in Osiris City, and Dratini from the Dragon Spiral Tower exterior, and that's it. I made sure to evolve Poliwhirl into Poliwrath with Waterstone after finishing up, and fishing wasn't actually too bad, but there's a few more areas that we need to hit before going east of Opelucid City. Firstly being the revisit of the Dream Yard. The random cone that was here moved out of the way, so I went into the basement and evolved Lileep into Cradilly at level 40, before getting Kricketune, Venomoth, Ariados, Lydian, and Raticate from the Dark Grass. Next up is Challenger's Cave on Route 9, where we're able to evolve Anorith into Armaldo at level 40, and get Graveler, Lickitung, Sableye, Mawile, evolving Ammonite into Amistar at level 40, and Riolu. The last area revisit is the Relic Castle, which we're able to go through the maze and get Sandslash and Onyx, along with Claydol in the room that the Wild Volcarona is. We don't need it because we've already got one, but it is level 70 and quite useful for running through trainers at this point in the game if you need it. And with all of that out of the way, it's time to explore the other half of the Univers region that they decided to block off during the entire main game. West of Opelucid City is Route 11, where we're able to capture Gligar, Seviper, Golduck, and Zangoose from the regular grass. During my search of Rustling Grass, I evolved Dratini into Dragonair and into Dragonite, Chinchou into Lantern, and Barboach into Whiscash before finally finding a wild Gliscor, capturing it. The last catch of the route is Buizel while surfing, so after clearing out the trainers, I arrived in the village bridge. The only grass encounter here is Bibarel, leaving just the fishing and surfing encounters. I fished up Carvanha regularly, and then went after the 5% Lapras. It's a rippling surf encounter, so after a few minutes, I managed to evolve Kabuto into Kabutops at level 40, and score said Lapras, allowing me to move on to Route 12. This is a pretty open route with a lot of grass encounters, those being Cherrim, Sunkern, Rapidash, Pinsir, Dunsparce, Kakuna, Heracross, and a female Combee. Make sure to get the female one since it can't evolve into Vespiquen if it's male. After running through the trainers on the route, I evolved Buizel into Floatzel, Sunkern into Sunflora with a Sunstone, and Carvanha into Sharpedo before healing and heading over to Route 13. This route's home to a boatload of new Pokemon, those being Tangela, Golbat, Absol, Solrock, Swellow, Lunatone, and Drifblim from the grass, Shelter from fishing, and Staryu and Corsola from surfing into rippling spots. Since I had a few open slots in my party, I evolved Shelter into Cloyster and Staryu into Starmie with Water Stones, and moving on to Undella Bay, I had 2 Quick Balls left, so I grabbed Pelipper and Wingull by surfing, before changing the clock and making the season summer, therefore opening a trade up. I grabbed my Cinccino and traded it for a Munchlax, yet another friendship evolution for the section. Lastly, I grabbed a Mantike from surfing, Remoraid from fishing, and Wailmer from surfing in a rippling spot. I had to yet again change the clock to April to force it to be winter time, so that I could grab Spheal while surfing in Undella Bay, leaving just 4 more areas and some fringe encounters. The first of these 4 areas is the Giant Chasm, home of Kyurem, along with a ton of other encounters, those being Sneasel, Piloswine, Jinx, and Delibird from the cave, 2 Ditto, Metang, and Clefairy from grass encounters on the outside, Metagross and Mamoswine from the rustling grass, Seal from surfing in the inner chamber, and finally, Kyurem himself, which I finally used my Master Ball on so I could get out of this area. I got back to Undella Town, allowing me to evolve Clefairy with a Moonstone into Clefable before moving on to Route 14, which doesn't have much to grab other than Tropius, Altaria, Shuckle, evolving Mantike into Mantine during the hunt, and Jigglypuff from the grass. I also cleared out some trainers, leading to Remoraid evolving into Octillery right before entering Black City, which doesn't have any use in this Oak challenge. So I'm able to evolve Jigglypuff into Wigglytuff with a Moonstone, and grab a Pokemon to use Waterfall and head back to Route 14, where I evolved Seel into Dugong, and Spheal into Celio before heading into the Abundant Shrine, where I am able to capture Bronzong, Noctowl, Chimecho, Vulpix, Stantler, and Murkrow, or Misdreavus if you're playing White version, as well as Slowpoke from Surfing, and Slowbro and Slowking from surfing into rippling spots. It took quite a bit of time to find Slowking, but it's the only area to find it, so oh well. I also managed to evolve Combee into Vespiquen, Kakuna into Beedrill, Wailmer into Wailord, and Tangela into Tangrowth before moving on to Route 15 and the Marvelous Bridge. I completed a trade for a Rotom by trading off one of my Dittos, and purchased a Magikarp for 500 Pokédollars on the Marvelous Bridge. Lastly, I encountered Mankey, Fearow, Marowak, Kangaskhan, and Pupitar as the last few normal encounters. Wait a second, Mankey? That's not a normal encounter, that's a swarm encounter. Oh lord, it's time for the swarm encounters. These Pokemon are on many of the routes of the game, one at a time per day, which you can find out by reading the electronic boards in the route gates. You're able to soft reset and to let the clock roll over to catch them, so within a few clock changes, I was able to get Farfetch'd from Route 1, Wynut from Route 2, Volbeat from Route 3, or Illumise in White, Hippopotas from Route 4, Smeargle from Route 5, Plusle from Route 6, or Minun in White, Sentret from Route 7, Krogunk from Route 8, Houndour from Route 9, or Poochyena in White, 3 Tyrogue from Route 10, Shroomish from Route 11, or Paris in White, Doduo from Route 12, Shuppet from Route 13, Yanma from Route 14, Pineco from Route 16, and Execute from Route 18. Now it's time for a rapid-fire evolution round before our first and final round of breeding. That being Murkrow into Conchcrow with a Duskstone, Execute into Executor with a Leafstone, Vulpix into Ninetales with a Firestone, Riolu into Lucario with Max Happiness, Golbat into Crobat with Max Happiness, Munchlax into Snorlax with Max Happiness, Pupitar into Tyranitar at level 55, Hippopotas into Hippowdon at level 34, Mankey into Primeape at level 28, Pineco into Forretress at level 31, Sneasel into Weavile while leveling up at night with the Razor Claw, Wynut into Wobbuffet at level 15, Sentret into Furret at level 15, Krogunk into Toxicroak at level 37, Houndour into Houndoom at level 24, Shroomish into Breloom at level 23, Doduo into Dodrio at level 31, Shuppet into Bayonet at level 37, Tyrogue into Hitmonlee with more attack, Tyrogue into Hitmonchan with more defense, Tyrogue into Hitmontop with equal attack and defense, all three at level 20, Lickitung into Licky Licky while knowing Rollout, Celio into Walrein at level 44, Magikarp into Gyarados at level 20, and Yanma into Yanmega while knowing Ancient Power. This wasn't too bad with the availability of level 50 plus Autonos, but here's the last slog before the end of the challenge. The breeding. Whip out your Dedo and let's get to work. Boy, that sounded really suggestive. After hatching a ton of eggs, we'll get Rattata, Ladybug, Spinarak, Kricketot, Venonat, Psyduck, Geodude, Sandshrew, Baltoy, Weedle, or Caterpie in White version, Ponyta, Cherubi, Igglybuff, Swablu, Chingling via Pure Incense that you can buy in Driftvale City, Hoot Hoot, Bronzor, Spearow, Cubone, Swinub, Cleffa, Larvitar, Smoochum, Tailo, Beldum, Illumise from breeding Volbeat or vice versa in White, Bidoof, Drifloon, and Zubat. And with a grand total of 332 Pokemon in a time of 65 hours and 56 minutes, we successfully completed Professor Oak's challenge in Pokemon Black. But how much better could we have done? The biggest thing I was questioning throughout the entire run was, were the rare Candy Lillipups worth it? I know I had to get one to level 31 through Sunstones, which is just fine, since it evolves twice and needs to get to level 32 to get to Stoutland anyway, but the 6 or so hours grinding the rare candy Lillipups didn't really save as much time as I would have liked. The Vital Spirit Lillipup, however, was amazing, and I wish that I used it more in the route, since that helped in maximizing the amount of EXP I'd get per section. But because of all these friendship evolutions, like Swoobat and others, it kinda got minimized. Even later levels for Pokemon like Larvesta and Zweilous, though, only took about 10 minutes apiece, whereas I was only getting a rare candy or 2 per hour from the party of Lillipups. And I think it comes down to the fact that this game, you don't get into many wild encounters as previous games, since you're scouring for rustling grass rather than random encounters. And in turn, that gives less chances for pickup to occur, so on average, I'm fighting 55 Autonos in an hour. That means I have 275 chances for pickup to occur, and therefore 275 chances for a rare candy. I'm lucky to have been getting consistently 1 to 2 an hour as that point anyway in those odds. So if you ask me, the pickup strategy is probably not the best option here. Stick to using it in Ruby Sapphire, Fire Red Leaf Green, and other games where you're just doing random encounters. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'm sorry that this was a bit later than usual. This video took a long time to make and edit. If you liked what you saw, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell since I'll be doing more challenges and Pokemon pack openings soon. Next week's challenge, though, will be taking a page out of Madrybread's book and going after Pokemon Fire Red with in-game trades. I'll see you guys next Sunday. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.